Hi guys, I am Siddharth. Today I am going to share my views on differences that are asked in API testing. These differences should be known to every API tester. API testing is one of the important concepts that adds on skill in software tester. So let's get started. Here are the topics that are there in front of us. What is web service? What is web API? SOAP API, REST API, HTTP, HTTPS, post, put, patch, authentication, authorization. So the first one is that is web service and web API. Every web service can be web API, but every web API is not a web service. Web service is used for interaction between two machines over a network. Web API acts as an interface between two APIs. Web service is designed to have interface for a machine processable specified in WSDL. WSDL, that is Web Service Description Language. Web API can have any means of communication. System call interrupts invoked using kernel API. Need for network operation is there in web service. Web API does not need network for operation, and it also exposes data service to browser. Web service uses SOAP, REST, XML, RPC means of communication, whereas web API used to number of object com, object, DLL, .h, C++, jar file, XML, HTTP, and JSON. Web service can be used for client understanding in XML, whereas web API supports CRUD with get, put, post, patch, and delete. Coming on to SOAP API and REST API. SOAP API stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. REST API stands for Representational State Transfer. SOAP is a protocol that cannot be cached, whereas REST can be cached. SOAP is a protocol and REST is an architectural style. Therefore, SOAP API cannot make use of REST API. REST API is an architectural pattern, therefore REST can make use of SOAP as the essential protocol for web service. SOAP uses only two standards, that is HTTP and XML, since it is a protocol, whereas REST uses multiple standards like HTTP, JSON, URL, and XML, since it has no official standards. SOAP uses Web Service Description Language, that is WSDL. REST uses Web Application Description Language. SOAP is heavyweight and tougher to implement. REST is lightweight and easier to implement. REST is commonly used in social media, chat application, Google API, where the resources are main concern, whereas SOAP API is used in bank application where security is the main concern. Coming on to HTTP and HTTPS. HTTP is not a secured layer, whereas HTTPS is a secured layer. HTTP works on application layer, whereas HTTPS works on transport layer. HTTP HTTP does not require domain validation. HTTP requires at least domain validation. HTTP uses TCP, that is Transmission Control Protocol, to send and receive data packets over the web, that uses port 80, whereas HTTPS also uses TCP to send receive data packets and does so port 443 within a connection encrypted by transport layer. No encryption in HTTP, whereas HTTPS data is encrypted before sending. Coming on to post and put. Post is for create operation, whereas put is for update operation. So Post is not idempotent. Suppose you try the request n times. Then you will end up n resources with n different uniform resource identifier created on server. Whereas put is idempotent. You can say post is not idempotent and put is idempotent. It does not cache its response. Put does not cache its response. Also, in case tried sending request multiple times, then it will be equivalent to single request modification. Coming on to put and patch. Put enclosed entity is considered to be modified version of the resource stored in origin server, and the client is requesting the stored version to be replaced. Whereas patch enclosed entity contains a set of instructions describing how a resource currently residing on the origin server should be modified to produce a new version. Put needs to send requests to have send full payload as a request. Patch needs to send request to have only to send to parameters which you have to update. Coming on to authentication and authorization. Authentication accesses to the system is granted by identity confirmation. Authorization accesses to resources are determined by authorized user. Authentication user's credential can be accessed after validation. Authorization determined to follow user can or cannot be accessed. Username and password are usually required in authentication. In authorization, depending on the security level, factors require authorization may vary. Authentication is done for authorization. Authorization is done after authentication is success. So authentication is done before authorization, we can say, or authorization is done after authentication. So it is before and it is after. So thank you so much guys for watching this video. I hope you like it. Thank you so much.